The Tour de France is brought to you on Eurosport by Coca-Cola. Always for the fans.
Welcome then to the start of the Tour de France. We're at Hertogenbosch. You will see the start of the race here today, and on the start line, Uzlemin ready to go. Well, the atmosphere is electric, but it's a very damp and dismal day at Hertogenbosch, where the Tour de France is starting, of all places, in Holland. Well, yesterday afternoon in the building just behind the finish, a Dutch umpire band was playing Singing in the Rain. I'm not sure if Chris Boorman would have appreciated their selection. And unfortunately, their musical weather forecast turned out to be absolutely correct. But who will be singing in the rain at the end of the prologue? That has still yet to be decided. The fastest time to date over the 9.4 kilometre course, that's 5.87 miles, is Mauri, 11 minutes and 14 seconds. In second spot, a recent arrival, is Gonchenkov, who rode so well in the Tour of Italy. He's 1 second behind at 11 minutes and 15 seconds. Francis Morrow, the previous champion of the world, the pursuiter, is back in third spot, just 4 seconds in arrears. His time 11 minutes and 18 seconds. Jonker was back behind him, 6 seconds in arrears, and Guali at 6. What a wonderful position you've got here too on the start line. Pulnikov is ready to go for the TVM team. This lovely shot, because they are actually sitting inside an enormous hall that will seat some 7,500 people there in the dry, and as soon as Pulnikov goes here outside the door and turns sharp left, he's in the wet and sticky stuff for his 9.4 kilometres. And look at the conditions here today. Well, I'm joined in the commentary box with Stephen Roche, and you see there the rest of our commentators who'll be taking you through the tour, which is going to cover some 21 stages. That's some 3,900 kilometres, nearly 2,000 miles of racing, up the Alps and up the Pyrenees. Some tremendous racing ahead of them, big mountain top finishes as well, and the prologue time trial here just to decide who takes the yellow jersey. Well, the conditions today, Stephen, aren't exactly ideal for a fast time, but have you got any predictions, bearing in mind how Boorman fell off last year?
Well, I think one advantage this year is that everybody's starting in the rain, because if you remember last year, the first half of the race went off in dry, and the last half of the race, unfortunately for Boorman, went off in the rain. So today it's been raining right from the start, and I must say, after being around the circuit, it is very, very slippery. There's not too many curves on it. There's 9.5 kilometres in total, but one of the hard things to get used to is that you can see the riders there coming out of that big hall, nice and warm, straight out of the left-hand curve, which is very, very wet. There are only about 3 dangerous curves, or what I would call dangerous curves, on the circuit, but then unfortunately enough, as you come into the finish line, there's about 25 yards from the finish line, there's a right-hand corner, and there's actually gravel building up on it, Dave, which I think will be very, very dangerous for the final riders who are actually trying to get a good time in.
Well, the people here sitting, having a meal, watching it going on as well. The whole of the town seems to turn out today to watch the proceedings.
Well, it's actually around the circuit earlier on. There's like one full line of people right around the 9.5 kilometres of the circuit, and we're just talking to some of the people, and we're saying like it's incredible to see you out here in the rain applauding all these riders. But we're used to this, he said.
Okay.
Like you must remember, we are in Holland.
Yeah, and in Ireland too. You get a bit of rain over there.
Exactly. As I said to some of the lads, it's like a prologue for the Tour de France in 1998, because we hope to have the Tour de France in Ireland, starting in Ireland in 1998. There's nothing yet official, but we are working very, very hard on it at the moment. But I'm just saying it's a prologue for the Tour de France in Ireland in 98. But I was in Ireland myself a few weeks ago, last week actually, and the weather was absolutely fabulous. So I just hope that in the 98, if Ireland does get a start of the Tour de France, we'll have better weather than this.
Well, I just left England yesterday, and the weather's been quite good over there. It rained a bit at night. I haven't brought enough warm clothes with me. I've got so many layers on to try and keep warm. But we usually take the warm weather gear up into the mountains, but I haven't unpacked it actually from the hotel I was staying in last night as we're watching another rider underway. Actually, I'm staying just down the road to Eindhoven, where the race goes through tomorrow, and I'm up, of all things, in the executive suite at the top, and I got bitten by an executive mosquito during the night. I know it's executive, by the way, because it had a chauffeur.
Well, you can spend that on yourself, David.
Well, We're joking here at the commentary point, but it's rather not very nice out there for these riders. And I've been watching them warm up behind the area where they start, and some of the riders are sheltered from the conditions because the big vans they've got have got awnings out there so they can get on the rollers and warm up, and the rest of the riders have found what other shelter they can get in. In fact, one of the teams has found their way, because part of the big buildings behind us on the left-hand side here, part of the big exhibition hall, is also an area where they must have a sheep market because they've got sheep pens as well. And there were the riders inside these sheep pens where the public couldn't get to them. They're only about 3 foot high, or a metre high, these sheep pens, warming up in the sheep pens. Ideal way of keeping the people away.
Well, David, it doesn't actually look like sheep pens. They actually are sheep pens because they actually sell cattle and sheep here on weekends and special designated days. So it's I think this place here looks so fabulous now with all these podiums and all these the whole showpiece looks fantastic. But I can imagine next week when the whole Tour de France moves away from this area, what it's going to be like.
Well, there we are. We've been talking about the conditions and the leaders so far. I've given the rundown on Mari Gonchenkov. Jonker, of course, although he's a Dutchman, he's actually out in Australia at the moment. Gualdis, Salvardelli, their 6th spot. He was an early leader. Jackie Duran, in fact, was the first leader. He was second off this morning, and he took the lead 11 minutes and 23 seconds. He was the man who took the yellow jersey last year in the Tour de France by being an early starter. They put him off early again today, but it looks like the conditions, as Stephen was saying, are going to be the same right the way through for all the riders. Some of them are riding on their special low-profile Prologue type time trial bicycles, but someone seem to me just got their ordinary time trial, leaving their ordinary bikes out today rather than going for something very special. And just going off the start line, I hope we have a good look at this bike. Hold it now. Watch this as he turns left. Have a look at this one. It's one of Moses' new bikes. Let's hope we get the shot. Come on, you experts. How about that? It's made of aluminium. I had a look at it earlier on. Very unusual design. Obviously try and let the wind come round the frame shape. There's so many different designs in time trial bikes now. It's unbelievable, the back of this hall, what you can see. I mean, in the old days, it's a standard diamond frame, particularly in your days, Stephen, there wasn't much change, was there? But now everybody seems to be searching for that little bit extra in terms of how to go through the air, getting it low profile, getting more power in the bike.
Well, actually, the other day I did a radio program, and there was actually some people called in, and one person actually called in and said, Stephen, shouldn't it be a question that all riders riding a time trial should all ride the same bike? So they thought it was possibly a problem economically that the rider couldn't afford the top of the range bike. But it's totally the contrary, in that every rider has access to any material that he wants, in a sense that if he wants to ride a low profile bike, or he wants to ride a carbon bike or an aluminium bike or a titanium bike, he can choose. But years ago you had a difference between a low profile bike or an ordinary triangular bike, whereas now there are so many different compositions of titanium carbon, aluminium carbon, aluminium titanium. This is the frame we saw a minute ago with Francesco Moto's frame. That is so difficult now to actually decide before the start which bike you're actually going to ride on. But I think for today's Prologue time trial, with all the curves that are on it, you have to be very, very sure of yourself to take the risk in riding one of those special bikes, because when you have an ordinary classic bike, the frame will give a little bit on the corners, whereas the more these, as you call it, like the solid bikes, like the minute ago Motors bike there, gives less give on the corners. So when it's very, very wet and it gets very, very slippy, there's less give on those bikes. But in one sense, it's amazing the difference between the different riders we have here today and the different machines.
Well, one of the Festina riders going off down the ramp now. The rider we saw just ahead of this one, young Leon van Von, is one of the Rabobank riders. Rabobank is the big, strong Holland supporting team, this big Dutch bank which have supported a team, and Leo van Bon is one of their new up-and-coming riders. We just watched him go away then, and he's got 3 or 4 first places so far this season, and a lot of the Dutch eyes will be on his performance on the course today.
Also, another thing, David, with the rain today, it's not very good for the muscles. Like, the riders have been riding the Dauphiné Libre before coming here in very, very good and warm weather. Now they come to the start of the Tour de France. They've been training all week at home in good weather, because it's been very, very good weather in France and in Spain. And nearly come here to the Prologue of the Tour de France. It's actually about 12, 13 degrees here. It's rain, so it's not very good for the muscles at all. So, but one thing here before we go on, Dave, I was just going to say that the likes of Boardman, Ingeran, and the big boys that are hoping to do really well here, this year in the Tour they have actually built a big stadium behind this grandstand here, where the riders can actually go in and get changed. And you have a monitor in there where the riders can actually watch on a closed circuit television. They can watch the corners, so it means they can actually watch the corners, how different riders take them, and it means that they haven't got to go on the circuit actually see the corners and how to take them. So it's a very good thing this year what they have. It's something you see in Formula 1, where you obviously the drivers looking at a monitor before, looking at the monitor, watching other drivers going around. Now here at the Tour de France they have this big room where they can watch the other riders going around.
Well, Eddie Seigner next to go. He was the champion of France last year. He's lost that now. See the old strapping across his nose, though he hasn't broken it. That's his new device they use to open up the nostrils to provide some extra air intake. In fact, I spoke to Nico Matin early on, and Nico had got one on his nose, and he said maybe it makes 1% difference on his way around. Anyway, he had a misfortune. His wheels seemed to zigzag backwards and forwards and caught on the brake somewhat on his way around. So whether he got anything on his nose or not, it made no difference because his brakes were rubbing somewhat. So that's one of Chris Boardman's teammates there. Eddie Seigner underway at the moment. So Chris Boardman going towards the back end of the race. We'll be on air for quite some time yet to come. We hope you don't switch off from Eurosport. Stay with us for more action after this break.
Back live to the Tour de France with Coca-Cola. Always for the fans.
Welcome back to the Prologue time trial stage, the Tour de France in Holland at Hertogenbosch, which they call it Den Bosch round here, so perhaps I'll stick to that one because it's almost unpronounceable. I remember in the days of the rally team, I spoke to one of my English friends. He said, oh, Dutch isn't a language, it's a fiction of the throat, so we'll just go for Den Bosch, I think, in future. I've been watching Eddie Seigner go around the course now, one of the GAN teammates of Chris Boardman. If you're switched on to Eurosport, we'll be on air for you watching it live, by the way, through until 8 o'clock this evening. And that's the Central European time, by the way. I know in Great Britain you're 1 hour adrift from us, 1 hour behind us. So it'll be 7 o'clock before we end the transmission today. And of course we'll be getting recorded as well and sent out in the highlights. Having a look at Eddie Seigner there with his bar ends sticking out the front, or his gear levers up at the end of the triathlon bars, and riding very much on this conventionally shaped bicycle, the sort that was certainly used by Rominger to great effect when he broke the hour record. So you pay your money, or at least the team pays the money, and he takes your choice and you ride on what you got. So Seigner could be in for quite a useful ride round here. His teammate Morrow was an early leader. He actually now is lying in third spot. Morrow from the GAN team, 11 minutes and 4 seconds. This year in the Tour de France, we've done without the team time trial, and I think somehow this year, Stephen, that the GAN team have come good when it comes to all-round performances. And we saw when Chris Boardman took the yellow jersey in Lille with that scintillating 55 kilometres per hour Prologue time trial, that in the team time trial he lost the jersey, his team weren't coordinated. There's no team time trial this year, but I thought the very year when GAN could probably have held that jersey for him because they've got such a strong team, they've eliminated it. I never really got to like the team time trial. I felt it affected the performance, but you rode the Tour de France how many times?
10 times.
10 times. What do you think of the team time trial being out?
Well, I personally feel that the team time trial is a great spectacle, and the Tour de France is made up of everything. It's made up of individual time trials, mountains, it's made up of descents, it's made up of individual time trials, it's made up of a bit of everything. So I personally feel that the team time trial should be in there, although maybe the overall classification should not, general classification should not be incorporated in it. Maybe it should only count for the team classification. But at the same time, this year now it's out of it, but it's going to change a lot of tactics in the race as well, a lot of strategy, because normally the team time trial is after the third day. So normally after the team time trial, whichever team wins it normally has 3 or 4 riders in the first 10 because of the team time. But I think this year that there's no team time trial in it, it's opened the race up totally, because it means that the result of the prologue will more likely stay until the first mountain stage next weekend. So I think we can really see Boardman. If Boardman wins the time trial today, he's a great team behind him, because we've seen the GAN team at work in the Dauphiné, we've seen him at work also in the 4 days of Dunkirk, where they rode very, very well. So this year, as you're saying, in the stage races, the GAN team are going very, very strong. And also before coming into the Tour de France there only last week, only even 2 days ago actually, we got great news, which was that GAN are actually in for another year, which means the whole GAN team can actually ride the Tour de France with peace of mind, knowing that they have a sponsor for next year, which can affect the performance of the riders at any time during the Tour de France.
Well, GAN, a big insurance company who took over general portfolio in Great Britain as well, so they're also represented out there at the moment. In fact, my nephew works for them. I don't know if he's listening to the programme today, but hello out there. I hope you're enjoying yourself, and all you good people in Britain watching the programme as well. I understand for David Walker, who seems to be my unofficial secretary for a fan club he's trying to create at the moment. We've got lots of pubs and clubs all over the place, so watching Eurosport, I'm going to try and give you a bit of a hello during the programme as we go through here. And we're watching then the GAN rider here. You're having a first chance to look at the whole of the course, by the way. Despite the miserable conditions, quite a fair number of people have turned out in the town, and tomorrow when we have the stage from the start to here at Hertogenbosch, right the way round and back into the town as well. It does a sort of loop round the town. Let's hope the weather's even better, and we'd like to see even more people out alongside the road. They're all standing here, by the way, but if you could look behind the barriers from time to time, you see great hordes of bicycles. In fact, the mayor of the town, when they launched the Tour de France in Paris in November last year, he said that there are more bicycles than people in the town here, and they make special provisions for cyclists too, where you can ride your bikes away from the traffic. The Dutch love cycles, love bicycling, and they really have gone on fake for this start, and what a great shame that it's so bad the weather.
But one of the reasons here you were following Eddie Senior's total time trials, because he's, of course, one of the favourites for the Prologue. He's a very, very good time trialist in himself, especially a very good Prologue rider. He has won a number of Prologues in the past, but when it comes down to the Prologue in Tour de France, he's always been a little bit off form. So he's had a very, very good comeback over the last few weeks after a bit of illness, a bit of sickness and what have you. So the reason that the television is actually following him now totally over the circuit is because they hope he'll do a good time. You can see the corners here now coming to the finish. They have to get narrower and narrower, and he's just under the last kilometre here now, as far as I know. It gets more twisty as you go along. The road gets very, very narrow. You can see the barriers here get tighter and tighter and tighter. There's one or two very, very tight S's before you get to the finish. As here's the final kilometre now. Sorry, no, it's 2 kilometres to finish now. But the final kilometre gets very, very narrow. And actually, it's sad to say, but I came around the finish line a few minutes ago, and the photographers are all on the second last corner, which is the corner where there's a lot of gravel starting to build up. And you can imagine doing a great time and coming off in the last 20 yards, David.
So let's keep our fingers crossed that the riders step right. We don't have anybody, not just crashing, because that's a misfortune anyway, but as we saw with Chris Boardman last year, he crashed so badly, he was off his bike for the rest of the season, and that affected his programme, and he's had to come back this year. And in fact, he's starting this race somewhat lighter than he's done in the past, so he's looking to go well in the mountains. I'm sure on this particular circuit, he's also looking to try and get that yellow jersey. So the one to aim for at the moment is that the time of Mohamari, who's a previous victor in the Tour of Spain. His time 11 minutes and 14 seconds. To give you some idea of what that sort of speed is, to get round here in just 12 minutes and 45 seconds, that's 30 miles an hour. So in fact, these riders you're looking at are going around this course averaging over 30 miles an hour, despite the conditions that you're seeing here on the road.
Here's the final kilometre now, David. You can see the barriers get tighter. There's a few more very tight corners here. Don't actually turn right around them themselves, but they're very deceiving because the barriers are so high, and the people you cannot see where you're going. You can see here the white lines as well, make it very, very dangerous, very, very slippery. There's pools of water here as well. As you see, it goes down to the end of this last 50 metres here. There's a right-hander, left-hander onto the cobblestones here as well. There's right-hand corner here, gets very, very slippy. Just watch how it takes now. Ooh, look at him now taking it. Look at, see how slippy it is. You can feel it under those wheels. This is your final estimate before the finish. You can just get a glimpse of it. You can't actually see where you're going. There you go. Now the left and the right hander now coming up. Here we are, left hander. Long left hander. Then you go to the right hander. With some gravel on it, you can see it. It's very, very dangerous. But he certainly has got a good of form today, Dave. He's going really, really well.
And the time to beat, 11 minutes and 14 seconds. Malcolm Murray, let's see what he's going to do on his way through now. Changing gear again with these sun specks there, the rain splashing on the specks. Shana coming now in toward the finish. 150 metres to go.
As you can see the S there, Dave, it's very, very tight coming into the finish. the rider sometimes just tries to give it for the last 500 metres, tries to give it everything he has. Hasn't done a great time either, Dave, but National Maori is by no means a nobody.
Well, some of these people are throwing caution to the wind. This time Eddie Senior not doing what was expected of him, and his teammate Moreau 11:18, so he hasn't in fact beaten the time of Moreau. Abdul Jafarov, surely. No? Have a look again.
Looks like him all right. It is Abdul, yeah. Those big brown eyes, Dave, huh?
So we've gone back in towards the start house now. And Abdul Jafarov, it is concentrating on the way out. This man, that demon sprinter, look at those thighs. He thumps down the finishing straight, tries to get his bike across the line first. He's no great time trialist when it comes to Prologue. He'll ride round and give it his best shot, but he's not going to feature in the top of the tree at all. But Abdul on his way round. We're going to see him in the sprints, the hurly-burly, which will be part of the race in the early part. Here, Zanini, well, he's been a real turn-up for the book so far this season. What's his sort of time going to be? And no, not so quick. 11:29, yeah, so he's down in 14th spot at the moment for Zanini. Takes his watch, he goes through. I know he's got to complain to the timekeeper if he didn't get it right, but Zanini, winner of the Amstel Gold, very much respected by the Dutch, their home race. In fact, we've had a little show with the Amstel Gold last night, rather pleasant. I think, oh yes,
here we go, Skibby, just for
How is he?
Skibby.
Well, do you know, he's had a rather up and down season, hasn't he? Wasn't too well a bit back.
That's true, but Skibby's the kind of a guy that on a day like today, where it's a little bit tricky, good straight, long straights on it, he could actually put in a good ride. He's capable of it, even though this year he hasn't actually put in the great results, but he has had a lot of illness this year. He's quite capable of putting in a good rider today. You'll see shortly, if he goes on his first few corners like a man possessed when he's really going for it, but got to wait and see for the first few corners anyway to see how he really is.
So coming on down in towards the finish now from that's Robert Pistori, I think, from the Enjoy team. Then Taffy will come then. Egg Zabel, we haven't seen him go all the way around. Neil Steen, we lost him as well, the rider from the Onsay team, who's had a very good season so far. One of the Australians missing off the start list is Stephen Hodge. I don't know if you're listening back there, Stephen, at home somewhat, but sorry not with us this year on the bike. Perhaps he might be able to talk to you on the old TV at some point. So Pistori 43rd. Some of these chaps aren't bossy and got to get round here. Ferrigato. No.
This Road Lotto team, they are putting an incredible amount of results this year, especially the Tour of Italy Road really well.
They did, didn't they? Yes.
A lot of riders in there. It's actually a mixture between the Russians and the Italians, isn't it really?
Yeah, and Gonchenkov has come good. While we're talking now, you see, we're watching some of the riders coming in here. We're going to talk about who might win the race overall at the moment. I was waiting for the finishers to come in here. This is André Taffy of the Mappe team, who everybody said should have won the Paris-Roubaix.
Well, Andreas Taffy is a very, very good rider, but I don't know if he would have beaten Lucio in the final sprint. But at the same time, like, Andreas Taffy has made an awful lot of progress this year. He's lost some 12 kilos, as far as I know, compared to last year.
Can you tell me how he does it?
I wouldn't mind knowing myself, David.
Now, can we talk about this fellow, Luttenberger? Brilliant ride in the Tour of Switzerland when he romped out that big mountain, took the jersey, first professional win in his career, then goes on to take the jersey. I've got this fellow tipped now as being the King of the Mountains winner in the Tour de France. That might put the bookies' odds a bit. What do you think?
Well, I think one thing about Carrera is, for some reason or other, he always finds somebody good.
Like you worked for him, didn't you?
Exactly. When they found me, then I was going to go on and Carrera was going to down. All of a sudden, Dan Zimmerman came along. Then Zimmerman went down for some reason or other, and then Capucci came along. The Capucci's going over the hill, and Fontani comes along.
Broke his legs.
Fontani broke his leg this year, the poor chap. Capucci's not going a little over the hill. And who did they find in Italy? Zaina and Luttenberger. So I think Carrera this year, they always throw in a few surprises, and the best thing about the Carrera team is they're very, very well mixed together, and everyone's riding for the team rather than riding for individualists.
Well, so, this man coming in now, sorry to butt in there, Steve, but this fellow we're not going to see like this much longer. This is Zabel, who won a couple of stages last year in the Tour de France, a thumping great sprinter. He's a race specialist. He took his bike up the boards then, by the way, but he survived, he's got around it, and we're going to watch out for him tomorrow and the next 2 days when he's on the flat. Just mark this lad, though. He could be in with a shout when the sprints are up, but right now we're in the prologue. We're going to take a short break. I hope you'll stay with us. There's more action coming up as Stevens comes in to finish. going to stick with Neil. I'm glad about this because the battling Neil is really a great character, and here he comes now. He's had a super start the season so far. We're going to see him working hard for Jalabert, and not a bad time for the pole. Neil puts him in the top 10 at the moment. Well done on the Aussie. So that's Neil Stephen finishing, and yes, we're going to take the short break. Thank goodness we saw Neil finish. Well, Decker from the Rabobank team underway at the moment. Again, a great crowd applauding here in the big hall, and they're in the right place to applaud. It's nice and dry and warm inside here. You just switched on to Eurosport's coverage of the Tour de France. Out on the road, though, it's a bit dismal and not a very nice day at all. So Decker on his way through. There's no change overall, by the way, at the moment in the positions in this Prologue time trial. Let me tell you, if you've just switched on, that the leader at the moment is Malcolm Mowry. His time, 11 minutes and 14 seconds. In second spot, Gonchenkov, another revelation this season, who took a stage victory in the Tour of Italy. He's just 1 second back in 11 minutes and 15 seconds. Francis Morrow, pursuit champion of the world, is in third spot at 11 minutes and 18. Garmendia has moved up just behind him now. He's 6 seconds back off the leader, and Jonker's still 6 seconds behind him. So another nice look at the start. There we go.
Here we go. It's Laurent Defoe starting off the moment. Swiss rider riding for Festina. I myself put a lot of faith in this young rider a few years ago because I felt he was the right age and the right potential to do well. He won the Dauphin Livre on 2 occasions, and then he changed into the Festina team. Since then he hasn't actually come up with the full shilling, but I have a bit of confidence in him again for this year because I think Richard Verhank in the mountain is going to need somebody to help him, and I think there's no better rider than Laurent Defoe. Of course, Verhank will also have the likes of Pascal Hervé to give him a hand because he rode very, very well in the recent Tour of Italy, being Maya Rosa for one day, and also you can also count on the riders like Laurent Brochard, who's had an excellent season this year. So the Festina team this year with Laurent Defoe, Laurent Brochard, and Richard Verhank, and of course Pascal Hervé. I think they're going to have a very, very good tour this year, Dave.
And in fact, they just had a finish there of Omar Puma, and they put up Venezuela on the list. My little note said, in fact, he's Brazilian, but we'll see how we go. Vanzella off now for Motorola team. The man who took the yellow jersey in the Tour de France a couple of years ago. I think he took it off, just took it off Sean Yates, who decided not to ride this tour, and Vanzella on his way through. Actually, the Motorola team, I was looking at the list of their riders, and almost except for Montoya, who's a little tiny smidgen of a fella, they're all about 6 foot something, and the lads from the Motorola team, they just seem to be so big, and most of them I thought, well, being American, they're tall, but of course even their Italian riders are enormously tall as well. And I was looking early on at some of the bikes they've got. They've now 5 of them have got a very special titanium ovalized tubing bike, and I hope we have a chance to look at it later on. Oh, by the way, looking at this nice auditorium here, did you go to Shirley Bassey's concert last night? I missed it.
I missed it myself there. I had to very, very busy working last night. But you just see all those people sitting down there. There's 7,500 people in there. Some sitting down, just sitting down looking on, and other people sitting down actually eating. So there's an incredible bit of corporate work that's gone on around this the start of Tour de France here in Holland. And if you look around the whole circuit, you can see all these grandstands which have been built up. Unfortunately, they're not filled up today because of the rain, but there's an incredible amount of corporate work which actually goes on around the start of the Tour de France, which generates an awful lot of money for the organising town, of course, because as you know that the actual start of the Tour de France here cost the town here of Hertogenbosch has cost them actually about £900,000. It's cost the town here, so they try and get money back in whichever way they can, and they sell like corporate tables and corporate places in these at the start line on the grandstands and everything else to get some money back for it.
Look at the water spraying up here behind him, so what a great shame to the people here. A very ancient city, by the way. It was founded in 1185 by the Duke of Brabant, the Henry I. So Perona gets underway for Gewiss.
Actually, Dave, the pictures we can see from our camera here, which is going around the hall here, it's actually done by a balloon which is hovering around the top of the ceiling of the inside of the hall, which is a small little motor on it. It's actually guided by a guy with controls. It's like a game, so it has a camera actually on the nose of it, and it's going around filming the start of the riders and also the people sitting down in the grandstands.
So Abdul Jafarov comes in here as the crowd here applauding this strong sprinter. What a great character he is too. He'd be in there contesting for that green jersey throughout the early part of the race. Wishing the best of luck when he comes to the man. Look at those thighs. It makes the eyes water, doesn't it? Just looking at him. He's got to haul his body over the mountain. There are 21 stages, so 21 climbs this show. Second, first, or all category climbs. That means unbelievable all category that he's got to haul his body over. And he is thumping along here, and the crowd applauding. A tremendous competitor. 11 minutes and 58 seconds.
It's a reasonably good time for Abdu Japarov, considering Abdu is a sprinter. He has done reasonably well in some other prologues before, but the prologue meaning 5-6 kilometres, where today you've actually practically 10 kilometres of route to cover. So it's a reasonably good ride for Abdu today, so he must be on reasonably good form.
And an unusual bike he's got too, an enormous thick round down tube, goes down to near the seat tube, whereas the fin that runs underneath it to also add to the aerodynamics of the bicycle. Well, I'm saying about that balloon up there, by the way, Steve, just the other side of the hall here, they've got a great exhibition centre where they've got second-hand cars, they've got lovely Dutch food there as well. You've got enough cars, you want to buy another one. And they've got a nice red Mini Cooper with a white roof and red stripes on it, white stripe. It's a new one, they're trying to sell that as well. But had a wander around there. And about the balloons, they've got a tiger. Now, it's not Tony the Tiger from the Kellogg's. This is to do with Esso. It's about 20 foot wide by 20 foot tall, and it's jammed underneath one of the iron girders to stop it going up in the sky. It's a great big inflatable tiger. It's enormous. So if that sells up any moment now, that's where it's come from. So they've outpacked the racing, and our shots off the camera in the balloon inside here. The people have gone to enormous trouble to put on the show you're watching now. What a great disappointment. The weather is so bad.
Here we have Manuel and Jean Fernandez, the Spanish champion this year, riding from Mapei. We just gone off our screen there.
And back in with the Roslotto rider, Fatigato coming in here. Well, Roslotto, their team, certainly we're going to see a lot of them later on during the race. And they're another of these teams, it seems to me, Stephen, that are able to produce riders who are just prepared to have a go. Although they don't have the sort of normal structure got elsewhere. People like Ugramov, we're going to see him up in the mountains there as well. Fondriest, the team leader on the flatter stages. Gonchenko, who's suddenly come good. Pascalino wants to show in front of the French. They're the teams which can slip away and do certain things, aren't they?
Well, they kind of have to, because I think this year is going to be, I feel this year there could be a group going away and taking 5, 6, even 10 minutes maybe away, because there's going to be a bit of competition here between the C is going to ride behind the breakaway groups, between the Benestos, the Onces. The motorbike nearly got in his way there.
Well, this is Luttenberger, the man I was tipping as being a good mountain climber. So again, we could see many, many different changes this year, but this isn't his ideal conditions, is it?
It's not, no, but it's a very good time. He's by no means a great time for us, but just losing 18 seconds to Maori is not bad at all. But of course, big guns still have to go, Dave. So Matthew Maori has done a great time. He's a great time for us himself. But it'll be very interesting to see now how the other guys go. But at the same time, all the Onse riders are going exceptionally well at the moment. We saw Neil Stevens going there a few minutes ago, did a fabulous time himself.
And looking then to, I think it's Zapata. We've got pink on the screen, by the way. You see the yellow is bike, and this unusual bike he's got it all flared and faired so that the wind flows around the bicycle. They have to ride in pink jerseys here. They're normally yellow, the Onse. That's the colour of their bikes. But of course, the yellow jersey is the one that's worn by the man who wins the Prologue time trial today. Every day, the man who's got the shortest time overall on general classification takes the yellow jersey. So they can't ride their normal Onse yellow jerseys. They have to ride in pink. That's why you see a change today. Whoops. I thought it says kamikaze there on the screen. He rode up the barriers again.
Well, actually, Dave, the Onse's bikes are actually, a lot of them are actually pink as well. So they had a choice of which bike they ride this morning. Some rode the yellow traditional bikes, other riders rode the pink new bikes. But in days to come on the flat stages, most of the riders, or all of the riders, will be riding the pink bike.
And moving on then to Benesto here with Jimenez next to go. The teams represented, we've been running through them one by one here, but just looking at the actual riders from the nations that I mentioned, we got the Brazilian back there, and they also said he's from Venezuela. Well, according to my list down here, only Venezuela is from Venezuela as such, and the list of riders, 62 have come from Italy.
His helmet fell down, Dave. He hit the small little bump, and his helmet came around. But you might see here, Dave, all the riders are riding not just hard shell helmets, but some of them are riding even... it's
gone.
Yeah. this is not normal, because normally in Holland or in Belgium it's compulsory to ride a hat. That's why you've seen some of the riders riding with a hard shell, but other riders riding with the normal Danish helmet, as we call it, with the leather helmet.
Yeah.
So I hope this guy could actually be in for penalties.
And he's on, again, a most unusual bicycle. I patrolled the Benesto camp. I didn't see that one, by the way, so we've got something else to look at here. And we see one that is one of Fondres' bikes later on. He's got one that looks like a 5-barred gate with wheels at the end. Solid, but it's, I say, but it's the most amazing-looking machine. So they're all searching for that bit extra, and Benesto have come up with something down there. But I saw a one on the bike, which is for Indrain, but that was a very conventional one. So perhaps he's going to keep his best time trial bike for later on. So the next man comes out of the shed as the rider we just saw throw his crash helmet away. Jimenez goes underway. So this is the Aubervilliers rider, Cyril Sangre. They came into the race very late, by the way. They're one of the selections. They had a wild card because the top 18 teams in the world were automatically selected for the Tour de France, and 4 were then selected on a wild card basis. So Biasi coming in here for Seiko. Well, their top man, of course, is going to be Cipollini, looking for the sprint victories. And I even had the audacity, Stephen, to put him down as a green jersey winner in Paris when we get there. Now, normally he doesn't go that far, but I wonder if this year he might do it.
Well, I think after a number of years not finishing the Tour de France, he's taking a lot of criticism because he's built himself up a certain reputation. He's now actually Italian champion. So I feel this year he kind of has to go home. Otherwise, he has to go through to say going home, I mean, he must arrive home in Paris. But otherwise, he may not go back home to Italy, because having the Italian national champion's jersey on his back, he must defend it. He must honour it. And the only good way of honouring it is actually finish the Tour de France in Paris.
Dekker crosses the line in 4th spot. There we are, 11:19:21. So Dekker has moved up into 4th spot, and that really has caused the Dutch here, who are shivering up in the stands, something to cheer about. And here, another good look at this lad flying through here. So Rabobank certainly got something to cheer about now as we go back into the start house.
The rain seems to have eased off a bit now, Dave, even though the road is still very wet, and I cannot see it drying up between now and the next hour and a half until the last riders go off. But it has stopped raining, so it's a good one. It's one good thing. One good thing about having to start in an enclosed area like this with covered over means that you haven't got to be. You can actually take off your clothes. You can concentrate 100% on your time trial, because what normally happens is when you're actually starting out in the open, there's rain coming down on you, you must keep your top jersey on you for as long as possible. You can only take it off with about 1 minute to go. So it means you're concentrating on the race, and you also have to concentrate on taking the jersey off and giving it to somebody and everything else. So it's a good thing, in view of the weather conditions today, having to start in an enclosed area.
Here Duffield, he's also got an ovalized down tube. In fact, I saw this bike being made at the Peugeot factory. I went to Romilly about 3 weeks ago, and they actually showed me as they're making these frames. And there we are. Well, it hasn't made him go any faster, but very special lightweight ovalized tube. I say ovalized, it's flattened in a particular fashion. And you see those very thin front forks he's got on there too. He's skidding a bit then, but I think they'll come more into their own, these bicycles, when they get to the uphill time trial, the mountain one, and also when we have that time trial at Bordeaux. Can we underway? Well, Bunahara, good mountain climber. They just managed to get the name on the screen, haven't they?
Bunahara, if you remember, he won last year's Tour de France. He won the Combativity Award, and since then he's been actually getting better and better. And I spoke to his director sportif there earlier on, and he told me he's the most European of the Colombian riders. He just lives to race in Europe, whereas a lot of Colombian riders, they ride in Colombia. When they come over to Europe, they ride well for a week or 2 or 3, then they're gone. Whereas Bunahara in the last 2 years has become more Europeanized, and he's making great progress in time trials and mountains and descents, even the crosswinds. He's riding very, very well.
So Banzella comes across the line now, putting himself in 40th spot. Mauri is still the leader.
Germany, the Czech Republic. Always for the fans.
Moncassin coming in towards the finish, not going to challenge the leaders at the moment. Still Mauri in the lead, 11 minutes and 14 seconds for the time, and just 1 second behind him, Gonchenkov. That's first and second, as Salvato is ready to go on this 9.4 kilometres. That's 5 miles, just over, in fact 5 12.875 miles exactly. And if you go round in 12 minutes and 45 seconds, that's 30 miles an hour. So despite the terrible weather conditions, these chaps are still going around. There's that Roslotto, Ross in frame, by the way, which I spotted like a great big drain pipe coming down, and underneath it, where it hits the seat tube, they've made it sharp so it cuts through the air. Podona comes in here for the Givis team. The man to watch later on, by the way, we're going towards the back end, we get the top star men. They put the teams, there are 22 teams, and there are 9 men in each team. So in fact what they do, they let their slow men go off first of all. They go in team order right the way through. And in fact, the last man to go will be Miguel Indurain. He'll be off last of all at 19:37 our time over here. That's 7:37 Central European time, 6:37 back in the UK. And no doubt we'll follow him all the way around. So that's some time yet to go before we get, it's another hour, I suppose, before we get to see him. And these riders setting off round here at 1 minute intervals as Alberto Elli comes in here. What a battling man this is. Another of those great domestics who's capable of picking up a stage victory here and there, given half a chance, who works hard for his team. And here he comes now across the line in 11:21, so he's got inside the top 10 in 8th spot at the moment for the MG Technogym team. Back again with the ZG Roslotto settling in here, and number 147 on the start list here. Well, Stephen, while Lino goes off here, he's much more, I think, going to be at home on the longer time trial as such. I did mention when we saw the Givis jersey that I thought that perhaps Berzin might be the man to be up there, the top 3, if not the victor this year, if something happens to Indurain. A lot of people haven't talked much about him, but watching him in the Tour of Italy this year, I thought he backed off a bit towards the end, and somehow he could do well in his prologue time trial. To me, I think one man we've got to watch for. I know people say, oh, what about Jalabert, what about Zuller? But to me, what about Berzin?
I think Berzin in the last 2 years, he hasn't really come up with the goods people thought he was going to come up with, but he is still reasonably young. He's had a very, very good Tour of Italy. He probably, when everyone thought he was going to come off trumps, he actually cracked on the mountain stage. But I think myself, he could be a big surprise here in the Tour de France, because nobody's talking about him. So if he gets into a group and gets away, who's going to ride after him?
Well, this man here from Spain wearing the Spanish National Championship jersey. So many changes in the jerseys this year. And of course, one jersey that was not in fact defended, the British Championship jersey, Robert Miller, who's now retired from the scene. I understand, in fact, that bold Robert was out there in Wales when Bill Owen put on a great race out there around Abergavenny and Monmouth, that Robert Miller was out as a motorcycle marshal, his motorbike, yeah.
I heard that too, but I thought I was actually dreaming when somebody told me to do it.
No.
But
Dave Walker, who tells me these things, says that that's exactly what happened. So.
Well, I can picture Bob doing that kind of thing, you know. Here's Beat Berg taking off now, Dave. Beat is a very, very good young Swiss hopeful. He's been very, very good all year. He's had a great season for Carrera. He's had he actually won Grand Prix Frankfurt this year in an incredible style. So Carrera have high hopes on Insberg this year, hoping to help Zaina and Luttenberg also.
Well, there we are. That's confirmation of the list I've been reading out to. Malcolm Murray still in the lead, 11 minutes 14 seconds. Gonchenko second, Morrow third. Decker moved up into 4th spot, Gamendia into 5th. Jonker, the Australian come Dutchman, is back in 6th. But see how closely they are at the moment. And I'm looking at, it's still... It's actually raining at the moment, Steve. If it just stops raining for a bit and begins to dry out on the course, we could get some faster times later on. But the heavens above us, it's very black over the back of Billsmore, as my father used to say, and it doesn't look very bright at all.
Well, the problem is, though, Dave, it is actually stopped raining now at the moment, but the problem is the road is drying up a little bit. But then what happens at the end of the field then with riders like Boardman and Indurain, it might be inclined to actually take a little bit more of a risk because the road looks drier. And actually the roads can be very slippery because the circuit here today is actually in around the town. So there is a lot of grease on the road. So it could be very dangerous for the back end of the field.
De Zabala, another Spanish rider trying to topple his countryman, but he's not made it. 11:31.21 for De Zabala on that strange-looking look bicycle. You see how thin it is. You look down it from the front here. Some of these are very narrow when you look at these bicycles, but remember the man on top is making a lot of air resistance to the sheer size of him. And
but one thing, Dave, that if you look at their results so far in the time trial, Owen's going to have at least 4 riders in the first 10 if they keep going this way.
Well, they've done that before. In fact, they did one. It was in a team time trial, wasn't it? I think it was Tour of Spain when they did so well. They had about sort of 6 or 7 riders in the top places for day after day, didn't they? Utica, what a character this man is. We're going to see him. Well, he took a stage victory last year, didn't he? When he beat Lance Armstrong. He did well again in the Tour of Italy this year. This man just comes out with something every so often, doesn't he?
This guy is an incredible athlete, really. Sometimes I ask myself, does he realise what class he actually has? Because he talks to everyone at the start, he talks to everyone in the finish. He's capable of doing a 200-kilometre breakaway on his own. He's capable of winning a sprint. He's capable of getting into a good group. He's an incredibly capable rider, but he wins the stage in every race that he rides.
Eros Polly, here we are. He's the tallest at 1 metre 94. He's also the heaviest at 88 kilograms. I've got this information from the medical people who weighed them all and worked them all out. Eros Polly, of course, the chap over the Ventoux the other year when he took that stage victory. A great character, none of those driving men. This man is one of the domestiques, they call them. They have to work for their team leaders, and that's exactly what he does. A great character. His wife comes from Australia, so he's speaking quite useful English at the moment, but he's the biggest, he's the heaviest, and when it comes to mountain, he's going to struggle the most like the rest of them. A tremendous character, and as now I thought he got flowing locks at the moment. He's on his crash out, hasn't he?
He has. This Aubervilliers Peugeot team actually was the last wild card given for the Tour de France this year. And it's amazing because I spoke to some of the riders earlier on in the Midi Libre about a month ago, and they were saying their team is not very good, it's not got very much money, and it's this, that, and everything else. But then all of a sudden they got a wild card for the Tour de France, and 3 new sponsors came in. So now you have these riders here. And 1 month ago they were like the poorest team in the peloton. Now they have a big bus.
Yes.
They've got a camping car. They've got full-time masseurs. They've everything. As you see here, they've Eric Brooking here on our screen, possibly riding his last Tour de France. He was one of my generation. He was second to myself, or third to myself in the Tour of Italy when I won in '87. He's been a great Tour contender over the last few years. Possibly hasn't come up with the full potential that everyone thought he had, but still, nevertheless, he's had a fabulous career.
And for those of you watching Wimbledon or switched off from Wimbledon to watch the cycling, his father was the team captain of the Dutch Davis Cup team. There we are. And also the family Breukink were very much involved in the Gosella business before Raleigh took it over many years ago. See, I'm a source of useless information from time to time, aren't I?
Well, Eric himself won an awful lot of time trials, if you remember, in the Tour de France and the Tour of Italy and the Dauphinés and Criterium International. He's had an incredible career, but
you raced against him. I knew his father. That's why I knew about that. See, Wim Breukink, friend of mine in the old rally days, and if he's listening, of course he's listening to the Dutch version. Hello, Wim. And I suppose he must be here somewhere in this massive crowd. There's so many people going round. And actually, whilst you're watching here this start, and everything is going so well and what have you, it's a bit like a swan swimming along in the river. On top, the surface looks perfect, everything's up, but underneath sheer turmoil. And around the outside of this big hall, there's traffic jams, there are people, there are chaps trying to leap over barriers, there are people stopping, haven't got the right pass. It is bedlam outside the area you're looking at now.
Well, I'm kind of delighted myself that Eurosport's coverage is going on until about 8 o'clock, because hopefully by that time there'll be a lot of people going home, I hope, from work and everything else, because coming here this morning it took 45 minutes to come the last 25 kilometres from Eindhoven, so I'm not at all looking forward to going home, especially when I saw the number of people actually coming into the circuit here before the start, so I'm dreading going home really.
And I'm in Eindhoven too. Are you staying at the Holiday Inn?
Holiday Inn,
I saw one of the Coeur de Lion vans out there. I wonder if you were in there, got a nip on. What's happening, by the way, this Coeur de Lion? Are you doing the same thing about the most competitive rider again?
Exactly. Coeur de Lion are actually the cheese company. They're actually sponsoring the...
Oh, excuse me, Shandy, we can't say... Yeah, we have to watch him go, don't we? There we are, viewers back in England. This fellow, I've said it time and time again, if you watch him first time on Eurosport. Born in Derby, his parents are out there in Los Angeles, and there he is on one of those unusual titanium bicycles I talked about earlier on as well. Max Chandry had some problems this year with his fitness, but could, I think, still come good during this race. I talked to his mechanic just earlier on. I couldn't find Max, and they said, well, he's still there or thereabouts. Because over 3 weeks, Stephen, you can come good, can't you?
Oh, you can. The Tour de France is an event where you can start on form, you can lose form and get it back again. So the Tour de France is like, you're better off coming to the Tour not being 100%. Although this year's Tour de France, the mountain's coming in 1 week. You've got to be on good form anyway.
Well, we'll talk about the Coeur de Lion after the break. Stay with us on Eurosport. They decided not to have the commercial. I'm sorry about this to you people back at home, by the way. We get the shouts on old headphones. I'll do the best I can. Oh dear, warts and alls, I say. Now come on then, Stephen, tell me about the Code and what's happening.
Well, Code Leon, actually this year they sponsored the Combativity Award, the same as last year. Only this year they've actually increased the prize money. The rider who wins the Combativity Award every day will be the rider who will be designated by 5 members of the jury, being Jean-Marie Leblanc, the race organiser, Jean-Paul Bouchon is a radio reporter, there's Philippe Bouvet, who is the journalist for L'Equipe, plus 2 other people. They will give points every day to their rider who they believe deserves the most competitive rider of the day. At the end of the Tour de France then will be a general classification for the overall an accumulation of point system, and the overall winner will win £10,000. Every day there's £1,000, but also today one thing you must not forget is that every day the winner of the day before will get his weight in cheese every morning in the start line, but that cheese will be going to a humanitarian cause, which is a very good thing, I think.
Well done. And so Stephen working on that part and working for us at Eurosport. And for those again who are listening out there not used to watching cycling, Stephen Roche, winner of the Tour of France, the Tour of Italy and the World Championship, all in the same year, and the great Eddie Merckx had achieved the triple. So we've got his invaluable assistance throughout the Tour, and thanks again for joining us in the commentary box, Stephen. And to all our friends out in Ireland, by the way, I have to mention our friends out in Ireland who write from time to time. Hello there! How's the brown milk going? Salvato coming into the finish area here. So the Italians, 62 riders from Italy, 38 from France, and 23 from Spain. Also in double figures, the Germans have got 10 riders in the race this year. The Dutch have got 10. Then we get down to single figures as Baldato starts to go here, with the Belgians with 9, Swiss have got 8, and so on right the way down. In fact, there are 24 nations represented as the mean look of Baldato settles down here, and off he goes. Great Britain, just 2 of us. That's or 2 of them. Chandry and Bourbon. Bourbon yet to come. He, in fact, looking down the list here, he's 192nd to go out of 198, so he's 6th man from the back end, when Indurain will be the last man to go on the course around this 9.4 kilometres.
Just watching Baldato here taking off on the start. Just calculating the number of sprinters we have here, David. At the moment there's Baldato, Muccio, Zabel. There's an incredible amount of Japarov. There's an incredible amount of sprinters here. So I'm really looking forward to some fabulous sprints over the first few days, because you must remember the first 5 days down as far as Besançon are, I wouldn't say flat, but they're very good sprinters country. Of course, you have Cipollini there as well, of course. We kind of get a old Cipo. Yeah,
well, we're going to have some super sprinting, I'm sure, later on. As Mazout's on cue, talking about the man who's got a quick sprinter. And we'll be going through Belgium as well. We just nip in and nip out of Belgium likewise. So a large number of people will turn out to watch this man go through. He's leading on the World Cup at the moment. Pascal Lino comes in his side with that mask on. It looks like he's going to rob a bank or something. An amazing looking device on the top of his head here, or something from outer space perhaps. But there he is then. So Pascal Lino coming in, and not a bad ride at all either. 11.14 is the fastest one so far. And Lino goes across the line 11.25. And there's Lino finishing as he goes through just on cue, looking across the side of it. Pulse meters, rev counters, you name it, everything is here bar the kitchen sink.
But of course the sport tester, the heart monitor now, nearly every rider has it on at the moment, because most teams now have doctors on board with them. And what they do is they register the heart, they monitor the heart during the course of the time trial, during the stage. At night time they put the watch into a machine which gives you a printout, like an electrocardiogram, and they can decide then whether you're actually on form, off form, coming on form, going on form, or tired or not tired. And they can it's amazing over the 3-week period over Tour de France how you can actually see your form coming and going on different days.
I was also reading in American magazine that this SRM crank system they've got now too, that they can, through sensors in the chainring and the cranks, that will also send messages up to a computer and matched with the pulse meter and everything else. They can determine now the output of a rider, his heartbeat, his recovery. So it's very, very technical indeed now. And if they keep that information on the computer, they can say it isn't just how his recovery rate from his heart is, many other things to do with strength as well. So he's getting very technical here, but he's still got to ride the bike. Yet another rider rockets out of the hall here, and Cuesta of the Once team settling down. I'm just looking across where we're sitting here. We've got Laurent Fignon working on our French system as well. We've got Cyril Guimond as well. And he's got a new team coming up.
Exactly, there's a new team called Codifis. They're actually talking about coming into cycling about 3 or 4 years. For 5-6 years ago, they're talking about coming into cycling and didn't think the moment was actually right for it. Now all of a sudden they've come in with £3 million for just like that, £3 million for 1 year, and hopefully doing 3 years. So they've Cyril Guimond, after Castorama stopping cycling there last year, was without a team. Of course, happy to be kind of semi-retired. And now this new team now, Codifis, have come along now and asked him to be the better sportif of the team. So what Guimond has done is he's recuperated all his old personnel, the second better sportif and Kilfin, and some of his masseurs and mechanics and what have you. And he's trying to make a really, really strong first division team next year, which is very difficult to do at the moment because, as you can imagine, all the good French riders are all outside of France at the moment. So he's going to have some difficulty, I think, in getting this team together.
Well, what about Marc Madiot, Les Français des Jeux? He's starting a first category team as well. And only those two teams so far have lodged the requiring 200,000 francs or something with the French Federation, because they had some problems with teams falling by the wayside, demanding a certain amount of money to protect the riders' interests, which is good. Those two have registered. GAM will certainly register. But you're quite right. Where are the French going to get, for 3 first category teams, enough French riders?
Well, most of the good riders, like Verhank and Jalabert, are all signed up for another 2 years, so they're out anyway, so I don't know who they're going to get. They're going to have to get foreigners in.
They might have to search like they're doing elsewhere for people like this. Uchakov coming in, the Ukrainian rider, a real turn-up for the books he's been the last couple of seasons. A gutsy rider, we're going to see more of him as the race goes on. He's not a very good time trialist at all, and you can see it on your clock there, but he's still gone around over 30 miles an hour on this 9.4 kilometre circuit. He's 120th, but something tells me we're going to see him in a different position later on during the race. In fact, there's so many riders now, maybe they've got to start searching behind what used to be the Iron Curtain, Stephen, because Kazakhstan, they're in this now with they've got one rider in this race here, as we know anyway. We've got them Uzbekistan, we've got them from Latvia, we've got them from Lithuania, we've got riders from Poland. We've got so many riders what used to be East European, and they seem to be prepared to suffer and try a lot harder. I'm not sure we're getting soft in Western Europe, but a lot of these hard riders are coming up. The Gonchenkovs, the Ugramovs this world, the Uchkovs we've just seen just now, the Berzins this world too, and we might see yet a change as this rider who's you're saying it, I might be riding his last Tour de France. We're seeing many different names come in the future, breaking on his way.
There are a lot of Russian riders hitting the fourth scene at the moment, especially normally Russian riders were part of a peloton, where now they're part of the front end of the peloton. So there's a big change there at the moment. But I think that it'll only be provisionally. It's only there for the moment. But the European riders are still hungry to win race, I think, and it's only a matter of time before it will come back again. You see Brooklyn here putting in a very, very good time, just 10 seconds behind Mauri.
And the audience applauding a valiant effort by Eric Broekink. Again, I think condition not exactly to his liking. The bigger, heavier fellows, by the way, slide a bit more. I know this myself. I've got the scars to show it. The little fellows can nip round the bends a bit better, but as far as the big boys are concerned, you're in trouble. Jaskula, I'm talking about how the Poles have also been strong. I mean, this man showed so well earlier on, didn't he? He just seemed to fade the last couple of years, but we thought he was going to be good too.
Well, he's the kind of a guy he comes and goes, Dave. He's capable of doing everything and then capable of doing nothing at all. But one of the extraordinary things about Jaskula is that he cannot sit on a wheel. He'll be going up the mountains, he'll be sitting about 2 lengths off the back of the group, and everyone thinks, oh, Jaskula's gone. And in reality, he just cannot ride on the wheel. So he's suffering and taking a lot more punishment than the other riders because he's always in the wind.
Well, there he goes out the circuit. We're looking then at the Festina rider. In fact, we're talking about French teams a lot, because Festina have now shifted their allegiance. They used to be out in Andorra as Robin comes out. Oh, he's had a crash a bit back. He hasn't been too well. It's still we're going to see up in the mountains, so he probably got time to recover from it. But the Festina team, Festina, were at one time registered out in Andorra. They're also a French registered squad now as well, so that's going to be 4 French top grade teams.
It is, of course, but at the same time, it's only registered with the French Federation, but actually operates and actually had his mailing address actually still in Andorra. So it's really only a question of the politics, as far as the political problem there with Andorra, and the ended up the solution was putting it to registering the team in France.
Well, Cabino on the way now. He must be one of the older riders in the race. I'd have to flick back to my records here.
One of my generation.
Yes, he's still around, but my God, when it comes to mountains, he'll be up there going with them as best he can do. So we're seeing, fortunately, here on Eurosport, showing a lot of the prologue. You get a good look at some of the riders who we don't see very much till we get the mountains or tucked in the bunches when we come to the sprint and so on. And many of these riders you're watching now as Max Chandry comes in here, searching for the odd elusive stage victory, working for their team leader, because the Motorola team are finishing at the end of this year. We want to put Armstrong up in a top 3 place in the Tour de France this year. Chandry comes across the line. He won't have bust a gut today, the lad from Derby, because certainly he's got to get himself back into form for later on during the race. And there we are, the Gant colours yet again coming in.
Didier Roux is a very, very good up-and-coming rider. If you remember back in the Criterium International,
brilliant ride.
Incredible ride for Chris Boardman, and still came out and won the time trial in the afternoon. He's a rider, doesn't look very impressive there, looking swinging and swaying on his bike, but believe me, he's very, very effective. I'm sure he's going to put in a very, very good time here today as well.
Well, I was watching his team swinging like that. A nice black and white picture of the old Tour de France. In the old days, the riders used to rock quite a lot, and they're much more steady on their bikes when they're climbing. It's amazing when you look about old films how riders used to rock, I suppose, until the coaches decided to tell them to be solid on the bikes rather than rock backwards and forwards.
Well, it's also a fact that the positions on the bike have changed considerably over the last few years as well. So I think it's basically the position really has actually changed more than actually the riders themselves. Because you see a young rider at 12 years of age just rocks at 32, he'll still be rocking. So it's something you actually, when you get the position right early on in your career, it stays with you right through.
Immerden from the Repin team. The Swiss rider about to go. I was saying earlier on that we've got Fino alongside us here, one of the other riders from the old days who've retired now. In fact, I have to tell you a story here. Patrick Chassé, French commentator for Eurosport, he came to me, he says, guess where we're staying? I said, oh, they're staying in a monastery of all places, and they had to be in there before midnight because the monks get up at 4:30 in the morning, so they didn't get much sleep last night. And when you go into the rooms, you have to make your own bed as well. So and here am I in this executive suite, and I thought, poor old Patrick has drawn the short end of the straw on the French Eurosport side to be in a monastery. And anyway, he says he's going to take it very easily tomorrow morning on Sunday at 4:30 when he gets up. Frattini on his way in.
There's an awful lot of these new young Italian riders coming to the fore and front now at the moment, Dave. We've heard a lot of new names being mentioned in the last Giro 3 or 4 weeks ago. So the Italian contingent here in the Tour de France has gotten stronger and stronger. In Italy, they've got a problem as well. They have 11 professional teams, and they can't find any more Italian riders to actually fill the teams.
Because the Cure lads who want to ride as well. Yeah, but they're all because we have this elite riders now, aren't they? We're not pros now any longer at all. They're elite riders, so undoubtedly I suppose they'll look further down the list to try and pick up some of the other riders to go with them.
The problem is that the television is actually covering all, even minor events now in Italy, so for a sponsor it's very good promotion, very good publicity for the sponsors. As Dowd is putting in a very, very good time here, David. If you look at it, for a sprinter it's a very, very good time, but because of all his Mario Fonderest, ex-world champion. Another Italian rider, Dave. Yeah. Another Italian rider, but the Italian riders are putting in the Italian television are showing so much cycling on television. Sponsors are coming in, they're building teams, but the problem is now the reserve of young Italian cycling riders is getting a little bit saturated, so they're making up teams with less performant riders now.
Past winner of the World Cup, past winner of the Kellogg's Pro Tour, out there on the road now as the Rizzo coming through. Yeah.
Belgium champion again, the second or third time Belgium champion, Dave, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, Danny Ellison couldn't defend it, could he, since he had that almighty smack up.
Of course,
So Wilfred Nelson, the two Nelsons. Wilfred Nelson was the reigning champion, but didn't defend his title this year with an amazing smack. So Mapai then have got this champion, Mazo, coming through. There are Victor in the Paris-Roubaix, taking that one in 61st place. Inside the hall it's nice and dry and reasonably warm. Outside it's getting colder and colder on this, the start of the 1996 Tour de France, the Prologue time trial. This is the 83rd Tour de France, and Phil Liggett from Channel 4 just been asking me whilst we had the break, can I remember the Tour de France starting indoors before? And I can't. I remember when we had the Cyclo-Cross Championship of the World a couple of years ago in Switzerland. It actually went through a big hall where they had a band playing and a beer tent and food and what have you. I don't remember this Tour de France actually starting indoors before. Can you, Stephen?
Well, I've ridden 10 or followed the last 3. I've been following the Tour de France really since 1980, and I don't remember ever seeing one starting indoor.
And I went out to see my first Tour de France in 1955 when I rode across on my tricycle. It wasn't like the kiddie ones, it was a racing trial. I'd ridden the Mersey Road 24, and I then rode all the way across to France to see Brian Robinson and Tony Hall finish. But I've been watching the Tour de France over the years and looked at things, but I certainly don't remember it being indoors before. Man who's used to riding indoors, by the way, you're watching now, that's Eki Marvu, who's been a previous 10 times world record breaker on the track. Most of those were indoors. And again, this Russian now rushing around here, and he could put up quite a useful time. He puts his mind to it, and again he's quite good at going as also pursuit champion of the world as a pro too. I think that he might put up a reasonable time. It's very cold, very damp, and I don't think we've had too much rain recently, although the windscreen wipers are going on that following car. So let's hope the thing does in fact improve as we get towards the back end. We're going to be on air on Central European time until 8 o'clock. We've got another 55 minutes to go as Laurent comes in to finish. Again, Agrigol, a new team in the race.
This is a new team in the race. A French team has actually got a wild card. It's actually a town, a village, the department. What do you call the department? Is a county is what I'm looking for. A county down in the middle of France who actually sponsored this team, La Creuse. So the local town, the local city sponsored the team. Then you got some other accessory sponsors then to actually come in and help finalise it. So they're very, very touch and go for the Tour de France, but finally they got in. So it's a great boost for the town itself, really.
Well, of course, we're watching the Brescia team come in here. It's a milk company from Italy. Jaskula, the Polish rider, on his way through now. The other team, of course, Aubervilliers Peugeot, they're also as a part of France. So it's interesting how the French have had departments sponsoring riders or teams, and now they've got some first division teams coming through in the future. Well, Motorola are going to pack up at the end of this year, so perhaps one or two of those riders might find a place there if Jim Okowicz can't take the team somewhere else in one. And here Madouas might be one of them could be looking for, because Motorola have been 6 years sponsoring. They're packing up the end of this year. Jim, I'm sure, would like to sell the team to a sponsor if he can sell it as a package. If not, people like Madouas could well go into some of these new French.
But it's actually unfortunate, really, for Jack, because the Motorola team has gone from strength to strength over the last few years. It's been up and it's been down. But I think at this particular moment in the Motorola career, they possibly have the strongest team they've ever had. Like, there's a lot of riders in there with a lot of potential. It's a reasonably young team, and right across the board they've got a very, very good, solid team. So it's unfortunate that now this team, which has been building up over the last few years, they finally have it now to a T, to be one of the strongest teams in the professional peloton, and now all of a sudden the sponsor now is pulling out. So would it be great now if the Motorola team could find actually another sponsor that just take over the whole team, rather than having the whole team splitting up. But Madouas, of course, had a fabulous Tour of Italy there a few weeks ago, and he rode a fabulous Dauphiné also. He had a great stage there where he finished second to Miguel Indurain, an epic stage. So I'm sure he's really looking forward to the mountains now in the Tour de France this year. Here you have now Stéphane Rouleau, who is the French champion. Is a rider who was with the Banesta team until this year. Actually, he was let go at the start of the year. He was a little bit annoyed at the fact that he's riding for Ingeran over the last couple of years, and all of a sudden then the team said, listen, Stéphane, we don't need you next year. So he was very, very disappointed. And of course, Roger Leger of the GAN team offered him the contract of coming with him this year. And I'm sure Roger Leger now has had great things to say about him. He had a very, very good 4 days at Dunkirk, and now he comes out and he wins the French Champions only last week.
Voters for the Lotto team coming in. Those who've been following the Lotto team over the years will notice they've slightly changed their jersey now. They're still black and red, but they're not in those sort of quartered style they had before. They've managed to sort of break up the black and break up the red. As now we're with Alex Zuller waiting.
Jalabert.
Sorry, Jalabert waiting. I just look up and saw this. Jalabert waiting here before he starts off. The French quickly nipping in with the cameras, and off we go again. Going back, whoosh, he's skidding on the surface here.
It's amazing the different designs and the helmet as well. You watch this one here, the G-Wist going around. It's fairly classic, but we just got a quick little glimpse of Jalabert's helmet there a few minutes ago, which is really, really funny looking.
And talk about the National Championship, by the way, with GAN. Chris Bullman rode the British Championship last Sunday, and world champions too. They're all over the place. We're knee deep in them here. We're getting towards the star riders, by the way, now.
Earlier on I was telling you about there's a room backstage now where the riders have a monitor up there where they can look at the race actually going on closed circuit television. They can look up there, they can watch the different corners, so they can actually, the riders have been around the circuit this morning, they know what it's like, but they haven't been around it since. This morning it was dry, now it's wet. So the corners are all different when it's raining, so they're having the chance now looking up at this monitor, watching the way these riders here ahead of them are going around the corners, and it's giving them a kind of a first impression of where the bad points are.
Well, there we are, 11:14 still to beat. Ibben's not going to do it. Out there on the circuit then, the riders going around this 9.4-kilometre circuit. Martin Den Bakker of the Netherlands for TVM. Again, the new national champion in these jerseys. And I was saying earlier on that Boardman rode the British national champion. Actually went off course in Abergavenny. He took off from the front. He wasn't going to win the race. He was in a group at the back who got split with an early attack, went after some 3 miles. And unfortunately, towards the end, he decided to take off. And as he did so, he went to an island and then went straight on. And they sent a motorbike after him. He was 2 minutes off the back of the main bunch, and that was it. He wasn't too disenchanted. He was just riding really short bursts to get ready for today. And in fact, Logilege said, take it easy. And here we are. What about this man?
Here we have Orlando taking off now. He's had great ambitions about this Tour de France here. He reckons that if he gets into a winning position, Tony Rominger will actually help him, and Rominger knows that, well, if Rominger gets into the winning position, he can count on Orlando. He's had a fabulous Tour of Italy. We thought he was going to have a bad year early on in the year because he was very, very heavy, but finally came out and won Tour de Romandie in great style by winning the final time trial. And then he comes along then and has a great ride in Tour of Italy just by, he kind of hadn't got it on one of the big mountain stages, but he's getting better and better every year. Every month he's getting better and better now that he has the World Championship jersey on his back. So I'm really hoping great things from him here in the Tour de France.
And ex-world champion Maurizio Fondris finished in 11 minutes and 42 seconds. And there was a slow motion look of him there. And for all you people I say who've gone to David Walker, are dotted around various watering holes across Great Britain, the Millstone in South Gosford, I understand you're out there cheering and watching Ralph Aldag go on the way here for the Deutsche Telekom. Bertie's Bar in Tynemouth, good luck to you too there. Jimmy the Governor, the Newcastle United fan. Well, my goodness, I suppose you can't win them all, can you? Billy's Bar in Digworth in Birmingham, owned by Paul Henry, who played Benny in Crossroads about 20 years ago. That's a long time back. So thanks all for your support for Eurosport, and I hope you'll stay with us for the next 21 days. We'll try and put you in the picture what's happening as we get toward the top end of the race now. The Star Riders are on the line now. Jalabert next to go.
Jalabert, of course, has the one big thing in his mind. If you remember a few weeks ago when he rode the Dauphiné Libre, he was riding the mountain stage up to Mont Ventoux, and Ingeran blew him out.
Yeah.
So he has that in his mind at the moment. He has it in his mind. He's thinking, well, was it me that was on a bad day? Was Ingeran just too strong that day? am I going to be as good in the mountains this year? So if you're looking at him there, his eyes look really open, but his mind is open as well as to what actually the Tour de France holds in store for himself.
But surely today's Romain Jalabert is not a bad man. He's going pretty hard now, but on these conditions, even these top men, we saw it last year at Saint-Brieuc. Rosson just went round. He is on this unusual on-safe bike with the streamlining behind the front wheel and over the back. Something like Jalabert, though, he's not going to just bust a gut today and throw a caution to the wind. Surely he's going to ride a respectable time trial, Stephen. I mean, last year, Bourman went off like a bat out of hell, but surely these chaps are going to wait a bit later, eh?
Well, the difference between Boardman and Jalabert is Boardman's a specialist. So even if he doesn't actually break any records, it's still going to be within a handful of seconds between around Indurain and Rominger. But Jalabert, even if he does bust a gut, he's still going to lose a lot of time on the likes of Indurain and Rominger and these boys. So he, unfortunately, Jalabert, not being a specialist, he has to take a little extra risk, because getting into the next few days, there's okay, the sprints, he's going to be able to accumulate some time bonuses and everything else. But we arrive very, very quickly into the mountains. So any time he loses in this prologue can be a lot of time later on.
And there we are then, the picture of Jalabert out on the road, and a lovely shot here down at the canal as the boats go by on this Tour de France, starting out in Holland at Hertogenbosch, where the Tour de France is going to start in Holland with the flat stages tomorrow, and then the flatter stages running right the way through as they work across country. But really, this man here could be in there still with a shout in the sprints, because he certainly has a go on that unusual bike at the moment. I mean, Once is one of the richest teams, and I've never seen such a fine, I think about 4 different bikes under these chaps.
It's incredible, but looking at the position here with that Jalabert has on his bike, in my opinion, he looks very, very high on the bike, David. The wind normally should be going for the down low, I thought, putting the head low, as we will see Chris Boardman later on here in the programme. Chris Boardman's head will be nearly down, stuck to his handlebars. Here we have Jalabert with his arms practically straight, holding his bust up. So it's a very unusual position he has here on his bike, Jalabert.
Well, Jalabert is going off now. He's the last but one of the Onse team riders to go. And we're having the camera, sorry about the picture breakup, by the way, go around most. You see that camera on the right-hand side of the motorbike? That's the man who's trying to get the pictures for us at the moment, having a few problems. The 22 teams in the race, having their riders go one at a time. We're now, after Jalabert goes through, we'll have Aparicia for Benesto. Then we're going to get down to the people who have been selected as the #1 Prologue time trials to ride for their respective teams. But Jalabert is not the last man in this team to go, because Alex Zuller is last but one, and Zuller is also a cracking performer when it comes to Prologue time trials, so they've kept him right at the back, and Zuller, last but one, has right behind him the towering figure of Big Mig himself, Miguel Indurain, looking for his 6th successive victory. Thierry Marie, well, he's another man. He's won 3 Prologues in the Tour de France?
He's won 3 Prologues in the Tour de France. He's one of the veterans of the Tour de France at this stage. He's 32, 33 years of age. He's ridden about, this is his 12th Tour de France. So he's a specialist, a pure specialist in prologues. After winning 3, of course, how could you contradict it? But he's the kind of a rider who can just go around the corner just as fast enough not to come off, but go any faster than he would come off. He's kind of a guy who can judge all these corners, the slippy corners especially. Very, very powerful on the straight roads, but he is 32 years of age.
And Ekimov getting close, but no, 11, 14, 10, he's got to be, 15th spot. Looking back there, I don't think he can believe that one. Just shows you how that early ride then by Malcolm Murray put him into the top spot. Second at the moment, Gonchenkov at 1 second. Morrow is third at 3 seconds behind him as well. 4 seconds behind Murray. So Murray, Gonchenkov and Morrow, that's the leaderboard, the top 3, and the big guns yet to come.
The times are incredibly close, David. If you look at the first 10 places, the first 15 places overall is only 9 seconds to separating the first 15 riders. It's possibly due to the weather conditions also, because normally when you're riding a time trial, you can gain a little bit of time on the flat on the straights, but you can, for any kind of a kamikaze rider at all, you can gain a lot of time on the corners, whereas today the road's very, very wet and very, very treacherous, so nobody wants to take more risk than they should do on the corners.
And he's third, 11, 17, 27 for the Festina ride. That's a horrendous performance. He really was looking good. A quick flick of the old gear lever there, determination all over his face, and now there's a lot of joy here from our French, because they popped him up there into 3rd spot.
We see Jalabert here on the straight flat parts of the circuit here. He's really going for it, isn't he? He really has his head down.
Yeah, I just wondered whether this man, I wouldn't say he's peaked too much. He's been such a competitor all the year. He's been one of the most consistent winners all the way through, hasn't he? Always had a little bit of break here and there. And he did have problems in his accident when he, early on the season, had to stop training and so on. He busted his wrist. So he's never said die, that man. I just wonder how you can keep the form going. He did it last year. Can he do it this year? And the Skatin now goes for the Kelmy Artek Costa Blanca team. He's the last man of their team to go off now on this 9.4 kilometre circuit.
Well, of course, one thing there with Jalabert is that he has to prove to Ingeran that he isn't actually going off form. So it's a good thing for himself today if he can put in a good time, because Ingeran, like many others, were saying to themselves, well, Jalabert was going great under the Dauphiné. He had a bad day in the Dauphiné. Can he come back? How is he mentally? How is he physically? As we have Madouas coming in here, I'm sure he's going to do a good time as well.
Madouas out the saddle. And no, 11:14.10 then, so Maori is still the fastest we've got so far, not toppled. Andre Chamil, what a battling warrior we've got here, past Victor in the Paris-Roubaix. And as we're up in Holland, he used to live in Roubaix, not a long way away from here. There are a lot of people who come from Belgium, from France, and all over Holland to watch the start today. What a shame the weather's been so bad, so miserable out there. And this fellow actually will really cope with the bad weather condition, but he's not the world's greatest prologue time trials by any means. He just ride round here. Jalabert comes through. The first time a prologue time trial has gone up to nearly 10 kilometres. The normally UCI want them to be shorter than that, around about 7.5 kilometres. They had special dispensation, have it slightly longer this time, so it fitted in with the streets they've closed for the day today. What a disappointment for the Dutch spectators. The weather has been so bad. It really has been a dog's dinner all day today, miserable conditions, and Jalabert out on the road now. Let's see what he's like to do. He's got 11 minutes and 14 seconds to beat Malcolm Maori, the fastest man so far.
Looking at Jalabert there on the screen, a close-up of him, he doesn't seem to be giving any effort at all. He seems just going along effortless, but the time will be there at the finish. We can see where I was talking about earlier on there. He's a 26-inch wheel in the front wheel, has it, so it looks smaller, but there's a very, very big gap between the handlebars and his bust.
Well, he's had the green jersey as the points victor in the Tour de France. He's searching for yellow. And last year he really set about trying to sort out Miguel Indurain. Big Mig looking for his sixth successive victory. And all the France is hoping this man might do just that. Tremendous all-round, gutsy, competitive rider. But the big men yet to come behind him in this early stage of the race. We won't, I think, actually, Stephen, see the sort-out between these top men until we probably get into the first day in the Alps, or more often that into the time trial about 12, 14th day, no, into the race, but less than that.
7, 8 days we start going into the Alps. No, it's going to be very, very difficult. I think that the first 5 days of the Tour this year are going to be very, very tricky for the big guns, because they've got to be very careful not to let anybody get away in long breaks, because people are going to be saying, who's going to defend, how's he going, and what have you. Whereas the first time trial being a 30-kilometre time trial with 14 kilometres uphill, it's by no means a normal time trial. So and also there's no kind of starting on the smaller climbs. First of all, you go 5 days flat, rolly roads, and straight bang into the mountain, into the big stuff.
Well, Chamonix Arcs on stage 7, they start to get into the mountains. Then on the Bourg Saint-Maurice Val d'Isère, that's the one, the time trial, 30 kilometres that Stephen's mentioning. And we've been bringing this as well live, by the way. Eurosport bringing you the Tour de France right the way through, live every day, highlights most evenings likewise. As Olano, the world champion, comes through now. Olano, what a tremendous man. Second last year in the Tour of Spain, third in the Tour of Italy. He tried to win the Tour this year. He busted up in the mountains. He actually took the pink jersey by a slender 0.46 seconds, and here he comes to take the yellow jersey now. If he keeps it up, and no one can touch it. We haven't seen him going round. We see him finish with a cracking time of 11:0. In fact, it was 0:04. They didn't stop the clock. It was just outside 11 seconds, and the cameras had not followed him all the way around. This man, an absolute superb time trialist too, has just shown in the prologue he might be the man who, having had the pink jersey in the Tour of Italy, might take the yellow today. Keep your fingers crossed, you Brits back at home for Boardman, because Chris has got a real target to go for now. Suddenly the race has blown apart at the seams.
Well, that's an incredible gap Also, Dave, I think people would have thought that Maori, being the time trialist that he is, he might have been beaten by a second or 2 or 3 seconds at a time, but straight going down like somebody, I don't know what actually the time was, because the clock didn't stop, but he's taken a handful of seconds off Maori's time all at one go. As we were saying earlier on, that everyone in the first 15 places are only 10 seconds separating each other. So it's incredible to see the time that Orlando has done. As you see Capucci here going off, one of the oldies of the
And listen to the crowd too. I mean, your old mate there, he really has got a tremendous lot of people supporting, hasn't he?
He has, and this year, I was talking to him last night, he was saying, I'm looking forward to Sestria again, because if you all remember it, is the exploit he had himself on in Sestria a few years ago after a 180-kilometre lone break and still winning the stage from Injuran. He had an incredible stage ride, so he's really looking forward now. Here's the time now, 14 seconds to beat Maori. Look at the rest of the field down here, Dave. There's 1 second, 2 seconds dividing everybody, and Maori's gone 14 seconds. Sorry, Orlano's gone 14 seconds faster than Maori.
What could Jalabert do then? I said the top men were at the back of the field, and we've seen the whole thing blown apart at the seams here at Hertogenbosch in Holland on this prologue time trial. Jalabert now has got a real mountain to climb. 11 seconds the fastest. The world champion has put up, the world road champion, that is not time trial champion, that is Indurain's performance. And certainly the road seemed to me to be drying just slightly, so keep your fingers crossed for the back men to come. As Jalabert comes in, it's going to be a good one. He could take second place too. And there, Olano 11.00 and 11.08.92 puts Jalabert in second spot.
I was saying, Dave, they didn't look very impressive when he was riding along, but he was going fast, and there's to prove it. He's done an incredible time.
Well, the whole thing is changing. Let's look at the concentration on his face. Stays upright, stays in contention, takes second spot.
Here's someone that's punctured something. Who's this now coming out there? Oh, it's a blow.
Now, what a man. He's had one good ride this year so far, hasn't he?
He's a fabulous Dauphiné, so he rode really, really well in the Dauphiné. I was watching him on the mountain stage with Injuran. But it's strange he actually walked out to his bike. Normally, the problem here is he walked out to the ramp onto his bike, which is a bad thing, because the thing about when you ride onto the front line, you can actually change your gears, you can make sure they're not cracking. Now he's getting on his bike, now the pedal hasn't even turned once, so it could be stuck between a gear here or something. It's a very bad thing what he's doing there. He should have actually...
But he's an amazing character, isn't he? I don't know, his attitude to life, the way he goes about it, he's just a one-off. And he could frighten a lot of people this time. You keep saying, we saw Chiappucci go. I remember, what was it, 1990, when Chiappucci, Steve Bauer...
Viank, I think, was it?
Palsek and the Dutchman went away, and they took like 9 minutes out of the field, didn't they, early on? They all had the yellow jersey, except the man whose name will come back to in a moment. And that can happen. There's so many riders here prepared to have a go, aren't they, this year?
Well, LeBlanc will definitely have a go Tour de France this year. I wouldn't say he'll be too close in the time trial, because he never is a very good prologue rider, and especially when it's raining he's even worse. But he will have a good Tour de France this year. One of his own personal hopes is, his personal ambitions is to get fast into the mountains, so they just show how good he is and how fast he has come back from his operation of last year.
The Italian champion on the line now, Mario Cipollini, who achieved his 16th stage victory in the Tour of Italy, I think it was this year, and has been the most prolific victor. But he does them on the flat, he does them in big bunch sprinting. Watch this character go in the stages yet on Eurosport as we cover the flatter part of the race. And off he goes now. Nice to see him in the national jersey. What a character! And I wonder if he'll get to Paris with the top bit green all over as he changes green, white and red national jersey for the green points jersey. I don't know, he's got the capability early on, but you never know with Cipollini. He's a right irascible character at times. He was disgusted with the Tour of Italy, the state of the roads in Greece, but he survived for a few days, then climbed off, having got his requisite number of stages before they got to the big mountain. So here we go then, the Aubervilliers Peugeot team. I mentioned Aubervilliers, another department in the north part of France, a sponsored team, but they're 11.43. That's not going to trouble Olano, who's the leader at the moment, 11 seconds dead.
Here's Thierry Mari now coming in. It'll be very interesting to see what Thierry Mari's time is. We haven't got any intermediate times on Thierry, but he has won the Prologue 3 times in the past in the Tour de France. But at the same time, he is one of the veterans of the Tour, so we don't expect a lot from him, but still he could be in there in the first 10-15 places.
Let's see what his time is. He Wax round now to 150 metres to go. Very likeable character, quite a fun-loving man too. I suppose if you're in his team, you must keep him always very happy. He's always got something to go. And no, he's just lost that little fire. The years have caught up with him now, but we'll see more of him during the race. I'm sure Thierry's going to defend that. Now wiping the water off his visor here. We're going to see him. He's prepared, always have a go. What a character.
Well, Thierry will have a go, I'd say, earlier on. You see Richard Virenque here looking very, very concentrated before the start. But Thierry Marley will have a go, I'm sure, because his team is a small team. We're definitely not going to see his riders in the mountains because they haven't got the capabilities of following the first riders in the mountains. So their job really would be for their sponsors is to get as much television coverage, as much publicity as they can before they get to the mountains. So we can count on Thierry Marley to actually have a go. Here we have, very unusual, here we see Richard Virenque going off with the mountains jersey, which happens in the last 2 or 3 Tour de France. What they do is the previous winner of the points, the yellow jersey and the mountains jersey, they start off the prologue the following year with the jersey, same jersey.
And Rob then, the polka dot jersey, we'll see him up in the mountains. And well, he said he doesn't see himself being up in the top 3 in Paris, but this is a much hillier race we've had in the past. It's got some, about 4 or 5 mountain top finishes as well. So in reality it could be an event for the mountain climbers to do well. So there we are then, as Alano is still in the lead, Piccoli not challenging him at all. Lance Armstrong, winner of the DuPont this year, ex-world champion, now ready to go. 9.4 kilometres ahead of the Motorola ride. The last of his team to go underway now. Behind Armstrong, Boorman, Berzin, Richard, Rominger, Rees, Azula and Indurain. The big hitters are on the road.
Armstrong has made incredible progress this year, Dave, and he won the Tour de Pont this year, beating even Tony Rominger in the time trial. So he's had an incredible year. He's made great progress in time trials, in mountains, and generally in his attitude towards racing. He's made a great progress.
Well, he was a typical Texan Bolshoi boy when they won the World Championships. He's sort of matured a bit now, and that man in the background wearing the yellow jersey from last year's victory in the Tour de France will be the last to go.
Chris Boardman now we see on our screen getting ready to take off. Every rider, of course, goes off in 1 minute intervals. So Chris will only have about, I'd say, 30 seconds now to go for his departure.
And if his children, Edward, Harriet, George and baby Oscar, are back home with his wife watching what's going on here.
They are his kids.
Yes, he's got 4. Edward, Harriet, George and baby Oscar. And, well, they may be watching the other channel, I don't know, but we wish them and Sally the best of good fortune, watching Chris all the way around now. We keep our fingers crossed he stays upright. He almost created a record last year by falling off in the first 2 or 3 kilometres. He holds the record for the fastest prologue time trial at 55 kilometres an hour at Lille when the roads are dry and like a flat track that it was. Jamil comes in now. That is a time that Boorman's got to beat. 11 minutes 00.45, and our hearts now begin to beat with this man. Let's hope the cameras stay a long way round, as here he is on that bladed type ovalised frame here. Chris Boorman, great to see the Union Jack flying on the right hand side. Will he in fact be out of his gun colours though into yellow? Well, we've got round about 10 minutes to find out. Much more careful than we saw last year when he went like a bat out of hell.
Very, very good cornering there, Dave. You saw me use that from right to left hand side of the road. Very, very good cornering. It just shows that Chris has been around the course this morning on a number of occasions and actually studied so well that each corner that he can use up the whole road. Chris could be on a good time here, I think, Dave.
Benji Berzin, winner of the 1994 Tour of Italy underway too. Ex-world amateur pursuit champion as well. Another man who could do a terrifically good time here on that unusual Bianchi bicycle. The special frame then to cut through the air. And right now the crowd applauding these runners. He's getting slightly drier too.
Yes, Dave, you see Berzin has a 51 is his number here. 51, of course, is a very, very famous number. Hino, Merckx, Ocania, all the big guns all won the Tour de France with a number 51 on their backs.
Well, Chris Boorman has never yet finished the Tour de France, and we're watching now. We're very interested. He rockets along here. Look at the power of those legs. This man is a superb time trialist. He was the world champion at the time trial. He's been Olympic pursuit champion as well when he burst upon the scene in Barcelona with that unusual bicycle. It wasn't the bike that did it though, it was a man on the machine, and look at that strength.
If you look at, we can't see it now, but a minute ago we looked at Chris's legs. You can see it there in a close-up on it. When Chris came to the professional of see, and his muscle is like a lump of, you can't see any definition on it. Whereas now, you're looking at there now, it's very, very impressive. You can see very distinct. You can see the calf muscle just standing out. So it just proves that Chris has done an incredible amount of work over the last 2 years, and is now more of a road rider than actually a track rider or a time trialist.
And Bo Hamburger from Denmark riding for the TVM squad. Well, the TVM, they always claim they might not be the best team, but they say they're the best good-looking team in the race. And Hamburger then coming in to finish there, but the all interest is back out in the road. Berzin now on your screens.
It's incredible when you watch these top guys going along there, the impression they give of speed. We saw Jalabert didn't give too much of an impression of speed, but the likes of Boardman, the likes of Berzin, we will see in a few minutes. We will see Indurain, we will see Zule, we will see Rees, Rominger, all those boys. Speaking of Rominger, here he is now. All those boys, they give an incredible impression of speed.
Well, Rominger now on the line here, ready to go. 35 years of age, this must be his last chance, I think, of winning the Tour de France, and he's going to give it all.
Actually, Rominger said last night in a press conference that this is his last really good go for the Tour de France. If he ever rides it again, it'll be at the service to help Olano. Because he said at the age he is now, he said that he can't motivate himself for it. Although this year is the first year he's come to the Tour de France fully motivated to actually do well. Because in previous years he's actually been riding the Tour of Spain to win for his sponsors, and then been obliged to ride the Tour de France once again for his sponsors, but against his will, so not being performant.
There we are, 52 kilometres per hour up on your screen as these riders go through. This young man here, pretender for the crown, 26 years of age, Berzin. We've just seen Rominger set off 35 years of age. I saw an interesting piece in one of the papers about how the older riders, the older runners, older competitors in the Olympics now, in their 30s and so on. And here Rees is another older man, 32 years of age, now about to go off from the start.
Looking very, very slim there, looking very, very slim, Rees, of course. He's actually prepared himself very, very well for the Tour. Just coming onto form only last week, winning up the Danish Championships, and now here he is now I think he's got incredible form. I've been watching him over the last 2 weeks coming on form, and his progress has been incredible, Dave.
Claudio Capucci coming in then toward the finish. We're talking about the old soldiers. My God, they go faster, some of these riders here. And Claudio Capucci, we're going to see him in the mountains. I'm sure he's going to look towards that stage, you said, Stephen, into Siestra. He won't do well in this time trial, but he gives it his all on his way around. The battle is being fought out behind him now to see who can topple the 11 minutes dead. Olano rides for the same team as Rominger, and let's see who's going to get that yellow jersey off this man here. Or will he in fact do it? He's a very good time trialist too, but perhaps the wet weather conditions, the twisty road, might make life difficult for him. Zulo then, second in 1995 in the Tour of France. The 28-year-old now is about to get underway.
If you remember, Dave, last year's time trial was in the wet, when Jackie Jones was way of the front riders in the dry. He actually won the prologue. Then Zule was actually the fastest man of all the top men going off in the rain. So these conditions today are very similar to last year. Maybe not as wet, maybe, but in the same sense, they're very, very... Ooh, you see Boardman here, he's cutting it fine, but at the same time, the roads still are very, very slippy, but the same conditions as last year, so Zule could put in a very good ride here.
So we really have the whole excitement right towards the back end. It's like a good murder mystery. Who done it? We don't know who done it. Who's going to do it at the end of it all? And I said earlier on in our program that when I walked round the big halls outside here, I heard a band playing, singing Indurain. Well, Indurain is the last man to go now. He's got to defend that yellow jersey. I'm sure he won't mind if he loses it just a bit now. He's going to have to really ride himself out, because this race this year is going to Pamplona in Spain. It's almost going past his doorstep, and he wants that yellow jersey when he goes home to Spain. This crowd appreciate the man who's won the Tour de France 5 times, looking for his 6th victory.
He's got a very, very funny bike there as well, Dave. If you look at it.
That's the sword type, isn't it?
Like sword bike, yeah. It is,
for his record attempt.
It is. Miguel now will know the times the other riders have gone ahead of him. I see Luc Leblanc here putting a very, very big gear here. It'll be interesting to see his time, but I wouldn't expect Luc Leblanc to do a very good time here. But Indurain will know the time that Orlano has done. He will know the time that Mathieu Mauri has done. So he knows what's up to him now.
Let me then confirm those times. And Olano is leading at the moment, 11 minutes dead. In second spot, Jalabert 8 seconds behind, 11:08. Marco Mauri is third, 11 minutes and 40 seconds. LeBlanc crosses the line, 11:50. Back out on the road with Tony Rominger then, riding along here. What a superb time trial as he is too as well. The man who's cracked the hour record. We watched him, didn't we, Stephen, at Bordeaux, riding like this, like an absolute machine. He's a superb time trialist, so we really have a battle on our hands now.
It's strange, normally Rominger rides a very classical steel bike. This is one of the first times I've actually seen him on a carbon bike.
And also Indrain having this special bike that he had made for the hour record, now adapted to take all the gears, all the bits and pieces that make a road bike different from a track bike as such. This big tall fella, he's not as far flung forward and flattened on his back as we'll see with people like Boardman and Rominger, but he's got enormous strength, and here we are back with Rominger.
Rominger is looking very impressive, as he normally does. Doesn't seem to be actually turning a big gear, Dave, does he? Just seems to be just pedalling along.
He's the same thing when we watched him in the hour record. He's going round, and we were absolutely amazed by how fast he was going. He didn't seem to be hurting either.
No, he still has his twitch there in his left knee. Watch his left knee there. It's going out as it goes up.
And he's off to the Tenerife. He's been out training across there. Many of these riders go just for the tour to get some special training in. I don't know what Indrain's been up to recently, but because he'd come on form just the right time. Watched him early in the season. He was just sitting in the back of the bunch, wasn't doing very much. And now Rominger's been off. In fact, I thought before the start he looked a bit too thin round the cheeks. I thought Rominger looked a bit fine. You'd normally expect to start a tour.
Well, Rominger told me himself last night that he's actually looking forward to the Tour de France. It's his first Tour de France. He's actually looking forward to riding. He said he's come on form. He's actually played his cards very, very gently for the moment. And this is it, do or die.
And he's been following virtually the same course that this man here, Indrain, has followed. Indrain puts his whole season around one event, the Tour de France. This man also has one idea in the Tour de France. That's to take the polka dot jersey. And right now, he's going very hard indeed on the Prologue time trial, but we're going to see him up in the mountains later. So Veronk doing quite a good ride here. That will probably put him in the top 10 at the moment. 11 to beat. He's not going to do that, but in fact he's in 8 spots. So he'll be pleased with that one for a man who flies in the mountains. And I'll look at this fellow.
Very good time there for Richard Virenque. I'm not one of his greatest fans, as everyone would know, but give credit where it's due.
He's done his fan club.
He's done a very, very good time for himself, because he's a very, very light rider, and on these slippy kind of a surface, when you are very, very light, your bike gets very light as well, and it's not so easy to corner on. So he's done a very, very good time.
And Rominger again looking absolutely comfortable. You see how close his elbows are together. The position many of these riders have now occupied has been the one that Boorman perfected in the wind tunnel when he was with the Lotus bike and went for that gold medal in the games at Barcelona. But Armstrong is not your most stylish rider when it comes to a time trial. He punches and he fights all his way around now, and he's going to be 11:50, so just outside the top 10, I'd have thought, on the clock there. In fact, 6th, my mistake.
Now waiting for Boardman, Dave. Here we are, Boardman here, getting very close. He's going to a super time, look at it.
Well, he started 1 minute after Armstrong. Remember, it's 11 dead is the time to beat. Second fastest so far is Jalabert at 11:08. Can Chris Boorman take the Prologue time trial? He's been dominating time trialing since he turned into the pro ranks. He crashed out of the Tour last year. He's made it this time through, and it looks like he's going to get this one. Boorman is really giving some stick today. Can he take the yellow jersey out of the saddle? It looks like he's going to do it then. 11 to beat, and he goes to line. 11:54, 55, and 10:55 it is. He's gone into lead by 5.41 seconds. That's going to take some beating.
An incredible time, Dave. An incredible time. Under these conditions, that was an incredible time.
Well, I'm absolutely speechless here, and I'm not often. I mean, to ride round like that, Olano, just like a jack-in-the-box, burst out and suddenly took the fastest with 11 dead. And now Boorman's knocked 5 seconds off that one. Jalabert is 13 seconds now down on Boorman. And this man, ex-World Pursuit champion, let's see what he can do on this course.
Looking at Indrain a few minutes ago, doesn't really look too comfortable on this bike for some reason, Dave.
I think also a big man too, like him on the twisty circuit in the very wet conditions, and of course he can do other things later on. A few seconds now is nothing like he'll get in the time trial, say at Bordeaux for instance. But Berzin here's going to have a go. Boorman's time then, 10:55 on the line, and he throws his bike at it. It's just outside the 10:56.43, 1.39 seconds. Well, he's come round this course here, and that says to me this man's in with a shout.
That says a lot, Dave. When you see a guy like Berzin, who is not a prologue specialist, coming in and doing a time similar to Chris Boardman, who is a specialist, that says something for his form.
Well, I was going to put some money on with the bookies back in England. I forgot to do so on Berzin for the Tour this year. If he keeps it up to the rest of this race, we're going to have quite a battle, because Berzin can climb. I know Boardman can climb, but Berzin's better there. Berzin is really a superb man when it comes to climbing up hills in like time trial, a mountain time trial. When they put the course together this year, everybody said, well, Indurain will be in for a bit of a battle, and he's had one already today now. But don't forget, as they're out on the road still, we've got Zuller yet to finish. We've got Rominger and Rees to finish as well, and it was Rees last year who surprised Indurain in that Tour de France stage from Huy to Serang, when he was in fact 5 seconds up coming in toward the final few kilometres. Still, a lot might happen. Everybody, I'm sure, sitting back at home watching on your screens now will be sitting like I am, fingers crossed, toes crossed, and just saying, can Chris get that yellow jersey? We shall have to wait and see, because Zuller's going very quickly too.
Just go to show you, Dave, that a lot of all these top riders, like the Berzins, the Romingers, the Indurains, the Zulles, the Gilberts, have all done incredible work to get the good form for the Tour de France, but their times just reflect their condition.
I've seen many starts in Prologue. I can't remember one so tight as this, Stephen, and you've ridden them as well, with these few seconds and these top men right at the back end like this, so jammed close together. They're so determined, aren't they? There's no riding around, I'll do it later. Every day counts now.
So normally those kind of gaps, time gaps you have between the riders, you would have in a 5-6 kilometer prologue, but in a 10 kilometer prologue, it's actually incredible. Rominger should be doing a good time here, Dave. Yes.
So another one coming in then, just short of Bourman's time, and he's just going to be outside Olano's time as well. That could put him into, what, fourth spot at the moment? Yes, it is. 11:03 for Rominger. Just into, what, we've got 10:55 Bourman. Berzin was 1 second back, and Olano was 5. This is so closely packed now.
It's amazing, Dave, because the second half of the second, no, it's not the second category riders, but the riders down the field are very, very close. Now you have the top riders being very, very close again, with a 7 or 8 second gap between the first half of the peloton and the second half of the peloton.
So this is the last man, sorry, not the last man to come in yet. We've got Zuller yet to come and Rees, but we saw Rominger. Here comes Rees, who surprised us with his performance at Huy Serang last year in the Tour de France, but that was a much longer distance. And now what will he do? The man now switched over to the telecom team. We're all sitting here with bated breath then, as Rees coming in. Then there's just Zuller and Indurain to finish. That's another close one too as well. So that's a good ride too, as Rees crosses and Bourman still is in the lead. Zuller's going very fast. This might in fact be a challenge for Bourman's time of 10 minutes 55 seconds. He's been looking good all the way round, and so is this the man to take the yellow jersey off Bourman's shoulders, where it sits at the moment as the fastest man in the prologue? He's been looking good all the way round. He's got that low close position. He has sat right well on his bike. He's got a streamlined machine, but this man Zuller, what was second in the Tour de France when we had the prologue time trial down at San Sebastian, then went on to take the yellow jersey of the new young rider in the Tour, and now he's coming up here challenging for that 10:55. He might take the jersey. It looks like he's going to do it on the line. He's going to get it. He is, and that's gone to Zuller. Oh, sackcloth and ashes in Hoylake. What a shame for the supporters of the Bourman Club and Gan out there. It's gone to this man who looks so good all the way around. What a race we've got. And now Indurain coming in, the crowd here. What a dismal day it's been. Overclassed has been the clouds. The rain has come down and ruined it to a large number of spectators, but they've been treated at the back end of this race to one of the closest prologues we've ever seen. And now he knows, Indurain, that he's had a race on his hands, because he knew Bourman would be going sharp. But it's Zuller that's taken the lead so far. Can the yellow jersey stay on the back of Indurain, as he's got the time of 10:53 to beat? Bourman is second spot, just 2 seconds down. 10:53 will come up on the screen. been at the fastest to date. But now the big powerful man himself, looking for his 6th victory in the Tour of France, is now coming up here, and he hasn't hung about at all. He's giving it all he's got. What a determination there's been amongst these riders, but he's not going to keep that yellow jersey. He's going to lose it to Alex Zülle of Switzerland. The Once rider takes that one. That's put the cat amongst opinions. There's no love lost between Once and Banesto, and yellow goes over to the man on the yellow bike, but this time Indurain loses it. Well, he's done that before in the time trials. He's got it back later on after Prologue, because this man is so dedicated to winning the Tour. That yellow jersey could still be on his shoulders when we get to Paris in 22 days. What a Prologue time trial. Zülle, the winner. After a tumultuous last 20 minutes or so in the Prologue time trial, the dust is settling. In fact, it's been flattened by the rain we've had here so far. It's been a disappointing day for the spectators in terms of the weather conditions, but they've seen a really exciting finish to this 9.4-kilometre time trial. Zülle running out winner in 10 minutes and 53 seconds. Chris Boorman, who looked like he's going to take the yellow jersey for the second time in his career, just failed there by 2 slender seconds. Berzin, the man who could challenge for the overall victory as well, just back there 3 seconds behind Zülle. Alano, Rominger, Rees and Indurain back in 7th spot. As we watch then Zülle come in here, to me certainly, Stephen, we look like right the way through. If all these riders keep their form, we don't have any sickness, this is going to be a great Tour.
I think so, Dave, and if you remember going back to last year's Tour de France, in the same period in the first few days, Indurain was actually behind on GC, the same number of riders behind Berzin, behind Rominger and what have you. And then the stage into Liège, where he actually took off and left them. Why did he leave them? He left them because he felt, well, if the time trial coming up, if I stay in the same position now, these riders are going to be starting off behind me. They're going to have my time checks. So maybe we could see something over the next 2 or 3 days, maybe before we get to the first time trial. Maybe Indurain trying something, maybe going for a sprint, maybe here and there, because he's still 11 seconds behind the likes of Orlano, Rominger, Berzin. They're all ahead of him. So if the situation stays as it is, it means in the time trial in 1 week's time, these boys will be all starting off behind Indurain, and Indurain just does not like that.
Well, this man Berzin, the first time trial we have is going to be a mountain time trial. Berzin probably could climb better than Indurain, so that's going to be great when we get down into the Alps. A lovely view then of this castle here, which was founded by the Duke of Brabant, Henry I, when he made that fortified castle here at Hertogenbosch, which means the Bois de Duc. It's the Duke's wood. There's a lot of wood around here, and he built that lovely castle you're looking at here. So we've seen excitement in Holland at the start of the race today. And tomorrow we're also going to be on air with our stage from St. Hertogenbosch to back into town. In fact, we'll call it Den Bosch to stop my throat going on the blink. And you'll be a chance of watching that as well on Eurosport. And I'm certainly sitting here absolutely agog with what we've seen so far, Stephen. If the rest of the race goes on like this, we're going to be a terrible frazzle by the time we get back to Paris in 3 weeks' time.
Well, it's all very fine, Dave. Everybody's saying 10 days before the Tour, I'm preparing for the Tour, my form is coming good. But the proof of the pudding is in the eating. When you see the times that have come in here today from all of the top riders, they're just incredible times. Looking at the conditions, the road conditions, look at the face here of Indurain. People have been saying he's getting stronger and stronger. People have been saying in the Dauphiné he was just so strong. Will he be as strong here in Tour de France? And I think today you can see the determination in his face here as he goes into the final 200 metres.
And the Classement Provisoire, there we are, with that's a reflection of what we've just seen on the finishing line here. Indurain back in 7th spot. That's very close to begin with. Look at the gap there. Maury was leading for such a long time. Suddenly he was knocked back by 21 seconds. Gonchenkov just getting into top 10. They were the first and second for an awful long time until the top men came thundering across under very difficult conditions indeed for a Prologue time trial. Not nice at all. I'm very sorry for the good citizens here at Den Bosch who put so much effort into making today a success. They've been en fête all the way through, and the riders, I think, gave us something to cheer about. All of them here, as we watched back at them in the start line, the concentration on their face. They rode their hearts out in front of a very wet and bedraggled lot of spectators along the side of the road, but certainly there'll be warmth in the hearts of people when they go away, because they've seen the giants of the road. It is the 83rd Tour de France, riding off to see who's going to take that yellow jersey by the time we get to Paris Paris in 3 weeks' time. It's been a great start to the Tour, and this man Zülle, this man who's going to take the yellow jersey tomorrow on the first road stage. A flat stage, bonuses will come into it. Sorry, not Zülle. I'm looking pink. They've got Jalabert, haven't they? I thought at least they'd put him up, but they put Jallo just to fool me. They keep
it's the glasses, Dave. I'm just going to say that there at the same time there. When you see Zülle, the way he is, his glasses are like bottle lenses. So last year people were saying, oh, it was raining, but Zülle didn't see anything. So it's normally goes faster than everybody else.
And he falls off a lot too, doesn't he?
He does. Whereas it's amazing. Look at the size of his glasses here. They're round, but they're like bottle lenses. But today, once again, the same conditions as last year. He puts in the best time. It's an incredible ride for a rider who can hardly see.
And there we are. Well, I remember my great friend Ray Booty many years ago was riding glass. In fact, they too have very similar sort of gangling stance on a bicycle. So that goes back some years now. So there we are then. The nice cathedral in the background. Well, tomorrow then we're going to be on live at 4 o'clock with the first real road stage of the race, and I hope you'll join us then, myself and Team Roche. We sat here frozen all day today. It's been a very good start to the race as such. We've got Formula 1 coming up after this programme, but we've really been enthralled by everything that's happened today. I hope you, if you've watched it for the first time, will join us tomorrow, and don't forget we're going to be right the way through for 3 weeks as well on the Tour de France. So from Stephen Roche, myself sitting here rather chilly, we're going to have to celebrate a success that's shown Zülle take the yellow jersey, the first one. So for myself and Philip, bye-bye.
Was brought to you on Eurosport by Coca-Cola. Always for the fans.